Hello, good morning, good afternoon, sorry, and welcome to everybody to this Congress or European Large Families and Municipalities. This is the first time that we are going to be together with experts, with members of public administrations to talk about the best policies to do to create these family-friendly environments that from our network of European network family-friendly municipalities, we are trying to improve going forward to a more family-friendly Europe. Then I'm very honored to open this Congress with the words in Brussels from Dubravka Šuica, the Vice President, the Commissioner Vice President of the European Commission for Democracy and Demography. Let's go.
For Congress of the European Network of Family-Friendly Municipalities. I would prefer, of course, to speak to you in person, but this will be for another time when the circumstances allow this. Prior to my current role as Vice President of the European Commission with responsibility for democracy and demography, I was the mayor of the town of Dubrovnik. One of my objectives was to enable our town to be a child and family-friendly municipality. Events such as yours today are important because they help raise awareness about how important it is to maintain family-friendly environments and to ensure that this remains a high priority of European municipalities. In June this year, we published the Commission's report on the impact of demographic change. This report presents the drivers of demographic change and the impact these trends are having across our European Union. The report helps to identify how people, regions, and communities can be supported to adapt to changing realities. These realities have, of course, been impacted significantly by the pandemic that we are experiencing, and we must therefore study these trends to take us through crisis, to recovery, and beyond. What we have observed among the main demographic trends is that in recent decades, Europeans are generally having fewer children and the pattern of household compositions is changing. While there are significant differences among European regions, local authorities play an essential role everywhere in seeking to provide the basis of social inclusion and cohesion. They can develop quality mainstream services and ensure equal access for all, including families with children, through European Union funds. To be clear, family policy, including the definition of what a family is, remains a competence of each member state. The Commission supports and will continue supporting the well-being of families through a number of our policies. I will mention here just a few which are directly underpinning the work we are doing in relation to demographic change and which will be of utmost interest for you. The first one is the European Pillar of Social Rights. A number of the pillar's principles are linked to families and their well-being, like the principles on wages, on work-life balance, and on children and support to children. Secondly, the directive on work-life balance for parents and carers that was adopted in 2019. The directive aims at making it easier for people to look after children or other family members and reconcile it with work. The Commission and Member States are working closely to ensure smooth transposition of this directive by 2022. The Commission is also about to present the Social Pillar Action Plan, where we will outline the key actions to implement the pillar and its principles in a concrete and sustainable manner. The issue of the well-being of families and children will be mainstreamed throughout the action plan. Specifically regarding children, I will present the first ever strategy on the rights of the child early next year. The strategy will provide a comprehensive policy framework for children's rights and will look at all policy areas where we have competencies to act. We will bring together all the tools we have in our toolbox, from legislation to policy instruments to funding to increase opportunities for children to reach their full potential. And with children still in mind, as they always are, especially when we are making policy for the future, the Commission is working on the Child Guarantee. This initiative focuses on children in need and their access to the services they require. I would like to thank the European Large Families Confederation on the Child Guarantee to get involved in the process. It is important for us to have input from all relevant partners and associations. Just a couple of weeks ago, the Commission adopted a proposal for a directive on adequate minimum wages in the European Union. When set at adequate levels, minimum wage can ensure a decent living for workers and their families and contributes to reducing in-work poverty and inequalities. I would like to conclude with a few words on cohesion policy. It is our main investment framework to support your regional and local authorities to establish sustainable development strategies adapted to your specific needs. Cohesion policy funds are available for the regeneration of deprived urban areas, which can contribute to the well-being of families with children. For example, integrated measures can address the needs in infrastructure and services of the local communities. This can cover many areas such as employment, education, housing, social, and healthcare. In addition, investments can include early childhood education and care facilities, kindergartens, or creches. Territorial instruments such as the integrated territorial investments and community-led local development can empower local people and local authorities to tackle local needs and make deprived urban areas more livable, especially for families. The European Social Fund and its successor for 2021-2027, the European Social Fund Plus, are intended to invest in people's needs, in your needs, with numerous contributions also directed to families, children, and parents alike, through investments in work-life balance or in measures against deprivation and poverty. I hope that your discussions today will further help in making our municipalities, cities, and regional spaces that are more resilient and welcoming for children and families in these uncertain COVID-19 times. This is especially so at a time when we are being forced to rethink many of our approaches in light of our new circumstances. Let us make sure together that this reflection keeps the well-being of our families and children high on the agenda. The very title of Next Generation EU is a guarantor of that. Our future lies with our children. We need to equip them with the best possible tools to make sure that they feel safe and comfortable and that they can achieve their full potential. With my mandate, I will do whatever I can to contribute to that very goal. Thank you.
Sorry, because I had the micro mute. Then thank you very much to the Vice President of the European Commission for Democracy and Demography for these words. We have a lot of work to do together on the topic of family, on the topic of children. And I would like to welcome now the President of the European Large Families Confederation, Regina Maroncelli, to welcome all the attendants from many countries in the world that are watching live this Congress on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook page. And I would like also to say to these people that in any moment they can ask some questions or give their opinion through the comment sections of YouTube or Facebook page. Then Regina, welcome to this Congress.
Thank you, Raul. Thank you, everyone who is attending this very special occasion for us. As you probably know, ELFAC is the European Large Family Confederation, gathers 26 associations from 23 countries all over Europe. We are aiming to creating a family-friendly environment where not only large families, but all families are welcome and evaluated. This is why we funded with the province of Trentino 2 years ago, in 2018, we founded the European Network of Family-Friendly Municipalities. This project is very big. It's growing all the time. Now we are very happy and proud to be here today and listen to very important speakers. I was very moved by the words said by the Vice President, Mrs. Suika. I certainly hope we will have time and way to work together as we understand that we are aiming to the same goals. So I am not stealing more time. Have a nice afternoon, and see you later.
Thank you very much, Regina. Then we start with the first block of this Congress, which is to talk about demography and social challenges. And I would like to welcome Alejandro Macarrón. Alejandro Macarrón is the director of the Demographic Renaissance Foundation from Spain. He has been working many years ago about the demographic winter, the consequences of the situation of fertility rate in Europe and in all the world. Then, Alejandro, what's the situation, the demographic situation of Europe now? This is the question.
Very bad. We can finish my speech because it's very bad. No, I would say that if I am going to use a presentation, but first I want to thank Regina and Raul for inviting me to making this presentation. The situation is not very good, and I will share you a good number of data numbers around that. I'm going to put a presentation. Okay, share screen. Let's see. Okay. So if I had to use a headline, I would say that we have too few kids to be sustainable. Current Europe, this is not only happening in Europe, it's also happening in Japan, in the Far East, and in many other nations all over the world. I'm going to explain you a little bit how these things works. I mean, if we have 2.1 kids per woman, a generation and next generation would have the same number of people. If we are having fewer kids than 2.1, then generations tend to shrink. They have fewer people. They have not enough kids for replacing the population. And then through subsequent generations, that will be cumulative. There will be a cumulative effect. Then the broader population as a whole will also tend to shrink later on, a few decades later, but it will tend to shrink somehow in the same way. If there is immigration or immigration net, migration out or in, that would change. But in the absence of immigration, this is what would happen. So here, in this chart, there are 3 bars. One represents the European Union. The other represents Spain. The other represents Asturias. That is a region in the north of Spain where I was born. But it's not because I was born there, but it's because it's the region with the lowest fertility rate, the lowest number of children per woman of any European region. Then for every 100 young adults, what is a young adult? Well, someone between maybe 18 and 35 to 40 years. This is approximate. If we have now 100 of each in all these different places, the whole of Europe, Spain, and Asturias, this is what we would have in the future according to the fertility rates. If fertility rates don't change, this is pure mathematics. So generation will be shrinking. We will lose in the next 80 years, 55% of young Europeans, 72% of Spanish, and 83% of Asturians. And this is not something that it's pure mathematics. This is demography works like that. So the result after having for years too few kids is that societies tend to have more deaths than births. And this is the balance in Europe. In blue, it's the total balance in thousands. I mean, there is that means that we are having now in the past few years more deaths than births. But if we take out the contribution in kids of immigrants typically are younger than indigenous native people of a developed country, and they have more kids per woman. If we take out this effect, and we only think of, let's say, classic populations of each of the countries, no, you would see that the balance is much more negative, no. So, and at the same time that population is lost, population gets very aged, no. Aging of population, if it's increasing for two reasons. One is that we have more higher life expectancy, but the biggest contributor by far is the fact that we have few kids. No, in the balance of the population, this is what is called the inverted population pyramid. There is a higher proportion of old people. This is the case of Germany. Germany Germany and Italy are the two countries in Europe that are most aged. Spain will probably be in maybe 10, 15 years or 20 years, but right now, because they have been, Germany and Italy, for a more long time having few kids. And this is the balance in Germany between deaths and births. So it's negative since 1972. There have been, in total, 5.5 more deaths and births in Germany since 1972. And if we think of Russia, Russia is even worse. No? Russia had 13 million more deaths and births between 1991 through 2011. No? Then it had some rebound in births, and now it's having, again, too few births to sustain the population. Even countries, there was some countries in Europe that had more kids, like Nordic or Scandinavian countries, or France, and also then fertility is on the decline, as you can see in this chart. This is the average of the four main Scandinavian countries or Nordic countries: Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and Finland. No? 10 years ago, it was relatively close to replacement rate, the fertility. Now they're heading to close, every year is less, no? It's 1.57 plus in 2019. And again, if we take out the effect of immigrants that contribute also to higher fertility, that would be probably in 1.5 range, no? Germanic countries, Mediterranean countries, and Eastern European countries are typically have lower fertility than the others, the Atlantic and Nordic countries, but it was more in the past. They're getting more together in the low fertility area. As I said, our continent is aging. I mean, our people are aging. Europe used to be called the old continent or the old world, and now we deserve that adjective, no? That word, because we are indeed much more old, no? Median age, aging of a population can be measured in several ways. One is median age. Median age is the age that divides in two equal halves a population, no? And if we consider what is called now the Euro area, no, it didn't exist in 1978, but the countries that now make the Euro area with 19 countries, it had a median age of 32 years in 40 something years ago, and now it's 44 or more. These numbers are from 2 years ago. It's probably a little bit more, no? But if you see all the different countries, they have all aged a lot. Especially countries like Spain or Italy have aged even more than the rest. No, what would be the effects of having so few kids? No, I will go very fast to this because it's a very dense chart. But we can talk about human anthropological effects. That is the population, social aging. Even ultimately, culture or civilization would disappear if it has too few kids. On wealth and economy, it has an impoverishing effect. I mean. Countries will have to spend more money in pensions, healthcare, etc. for the elderly because there is a higher proportion of elderly people. There's going to be less consumption. Working people would have to get, probably would be taxed more because they have to pay, states have to collect more money for the old, no? You will have a workforce that's shrinking and older, native workforce. You can maybe compensate. We will talk about later a little bit about immigration. Probably there's going to be less entrepreneurship and innovation. Productivity is also harmed because an aged workforce is less productive, would be less productive, and economies of scale would be lost because there is the markets are smaller, no? And there would be the valuation of assets, property. I mean, the houses, for instance, no, if there is a city in which half of the houses are empty in maybe 60 years, no? Of course, the value of real estate, of property would be lower, no? But it's not. This is not only about economy. No, there is actually effects that are even, in my opinion, even more worrisome, like loneliness. No? There is a growing amount of loneliness. There are more and more people who live alone. In my country, in Spain, 50 years ago, less than 2% of the population lived alone in a household with just that person living alone. Now, the proportion, the share of Spaniards living alone has multiplied by 6. And in every country, that's happened a little bit the same. Maybe it has multiplied by 4 or by 6 or by 5 or by whatever, no? But there are more and more lonely people. And this is something that is not only very sad, but it's also creates additional poverty because people who live alone don't share expenses. We are now in a group of large families, no? Large families have less expense in almost everything per person, no? Because they share expenses. I mean, for as a country, we have a more effective per capita income if we live in households with more people because we are sharing expenses, no? And of course, there is a risk, an increased risk of having the last years of your life being very sad because you don't have relatives, you don't have children, you don't have people who give you, I mean, this kind of not just material support but also love, no? And of course, there is a growing risk of pressure for euthanasia because the elderly are very costly, no? I mean, the states have a trend to. There have been some statements by, for instance, the Japanese Minister of Finance, who said 7 years ago that the elderly should hurry up and die because they are very costly. No? On politics, our democracies are becoming gerontocracies. I mean, the government of the old, because the retired people are becoming increasingly the most important voting segment. No? And of course, their main interest is, that they are bad or good. I mean, their logical interest is that working people transfer a growing share of wealth to them. No? And on geopolitics in the international arena, Europe tends to be irrelevant. I mean, we will see some charts later, but Europe was 25% of the world population at the beginning of the 20th century. And now we are less than 10%. No, our share of the world is less and less. No? On the other hand, let me see if I can. I don't know why it doesn't go forward. Okay, let me see. Okay, no, it doesn't. It's like blocked now. Okay, Can you see me now? Okay, I had a problem for a moment in the presentation. I'm gonna try to share again. Share screen.
Start the presentation again. We are listening very well.
Okay, and so I was. Let me see if I can. Okay. If I can change. I don't know why it's blocked. Now, okay. Yes, I said that there's some positive side effects. I mean, they don't compensate. We would spend less in education, and there would not be much unemployment in the future unless there is too much arrival of immigrants. Because, of course, if there are more people who retire every year than people who enter the workforce, young people, then unemployment will tend to disappear. No, houses will be cheaper, but of course, maybe you don't want to buy or rent a house in a place where nobody lives. No, there will be less crime because typically crime is a matter, especially violent crime of young people. No, but I don't think this compensates. No, in terms of loneliness, this is a chart it's a theoretical chart. No, shows how many brothers, sisters, cousins, how many close relatives we would have if we all had the same number of children. No, if we just have one child per person, all the thing that we would have in the future would be one child and then one grandchild. No, in large families are in the right of this chart. No, they tend to have a good number of brothers, sisters, and then a lot of cousins, the next generation, lots of uncles and aunts, and nephews, nieces, grandchildren. No? And unfortunately, we are close to for instance, Spain is in this 1.3, Spain or Italy. No, in this theoretically, you cannot have just 0.3 brothers or sisters. Of course, this is an average. No, but shows you that many people don't have brothers at all, no siblings at all. The share of Europe, as I told you, in the world is less and less. No, we were 18%. It's calculated. We were 18% in the 16th century at the beginning. We were close to 25% in 1900, and now we are less than 10% and going down. No? Can we compensate through immigration this lack of children? Well, well-managed immigration can be very valuable to cover workforce shortages, but poorly managed immigration can create new kinds of problems and even fracture societies. No? The problem here is that there is an unlimited amount of people in the world, virtually unlimited, who would like to come to Europe or to North America, but low skill. No? And we need both things, both kind of people. No, for our workforce, we need low skill and high skill. And high skill, there is not this big supply. No? And the other thing that is important to think is that immigrants cannot solve all problems. I mean, they cannot solve, for instance, loneliness, no? Increased loneliness. And they also age. No, it's not immigration can be part of the solution. When you hear, no, it doesn't matter if we don't have kids, we can cover with immigrants. This is not true. It has not been true in any country. It is true that some immigration can be very valuable, but then there are other problems. Like, for instance, we tend to attract too many immigrants because of our welfare states, no? And then there is a higher unemployment, no? Immigrants have more unemployment than indigenous or native people in all countries, no? In countries like mine in Europe, in Spain, a lot, no? And then, of course, there can be some kind of problems with integration, no? And what should we do to cope with this so-called demographic suicide of Europe, no? I mean, for me, making of boosting birth rates and having more stable and larger families should be a top priority. I mean, I unfortunately we don't hear that. I mean, I'm in the introduction to this webinar. No, we saw the person who is representing demography in the European Commission. I didn't listen to her saying boost birth rates. We need more births. We need more babies. No. Everything is friendly, everything is nice, everything is comfortability, things like that. But we need more children. Without more children, we cannot go through. No? So for that, for being able to achieve that, we need to increase social awareness about this problem, fertility problem. I mean, there is a poll in Europe at the European level, and for instance, in countries like mine in Spain, and citizens are asked what are the main problems of your country or of Europe, no? And never it has come that one of the top 3 problems is that we have too few children, that this makes our societies not sustainable. No? We need, governments should foster serious research about causes, effects, and solutions. There has to be changes in laws and cultural values that facilitate higher birth rates and a recovered prestige to mothers and fathers. We need more stable families. Stable families have more children. In any country, I mean, there are 3 types of households or families with children. There is a married family, there is a cohabitation or de facto couple or however, whatever you call it, and there is a single parent household. No? In any country, married people have more children. No? And of course, we have to handle immigration in a win-win way, and also the private sector should help. No? We have to adapt to what's happening. No? Civil society has to be involved, and the same as companies, and also as citizens. No? As a final slide, no, I had Raul had given me 20 minutes, but I went a little bit faster. No, society should help organizations like what I modestly manage, like Demographic Renaissance, that whose only goal is to make aware that people that we have too few kids and try to do research on how what can we do for having people willing to be to have more children. No? And if there should be not just my foundation, there should be many in all the countries, because we need this is a tremendous task. This is a very, very complex problem. All modern societies, no modern society has enough kids. There is only maybe one exception, that is Israel. There are countries that are really trying to reverse this, like Hungary, it's getting some results. Unfortunately, not enough yet, but we'll see if they get them. But most of the countries are not doing enough for what is needed for changing the situation. And citizens are not aware. societies are not involved, and we are not sustainable if we don't have more kids. And with that, Raul, I finish my presentation.
Thank you very much. Yes, really, the situation doesn't seem to be very optimistic. Then to talk about this, we have the Professor Roberto Poli. Roberto Poli came from Trento. He is Professor of Philosophy of Science. Also is the UNESCO Chair in Anticipatory System at Trento University. Then it seems with this situation, maybe we are a bit afraid. I don't know what could be the challenges for the future, Professor Poli.
Okay, thank you very much for your kind invitation. I share obviously all the data presented by Professor Maccaron, but I'll try to show at least some bits of a possible answer. What can we do in order to try to address the problem? Also because, the problem of the lack of childs is very spread. Almost half of the world of the population live in countries below the rate of replacement. It means that something very deep is at work here. And so we have to understand at least some aspects of the underlying problems in order to eventually be able to offer some kind of solution, or at least fragments of a possible solution. And my proposal is that we have to change our understanding of the welfare and of the welfare states. As different as the Europeans are, there are many differences, obviously, because Finnish are different from Greeks and Italians are different from Spaniards or from French or from Germans and so on and so forth. But all Europeans defend the idea of the welfare state. This is a real European idea, a real European perspective, and it is different from an American or an Asian perspective. So we have to start from that. Also because welfare policies, as we know, have been under attack for many years. Many economists have defended the idea that investing in welfare is less productive than investing directly in companies and so on and so forth. Now we know that these analyses are simply wrong. The data they were relying on are not valid. But leaving apart all the technical issues, the deep problem is that, okay, welfare services are expensive. We know that. And many countries run into troubles in order to try to offer services to their citizens. We know that as well. The problem is that we would like to maintain a good level of welfare services, but we would like to have and to implement a sustainable welfare, a welfare that can be maintained over time. And that's a real issue. Because it is a real issue, the problem is that the welfare framework we have inherited from the 50s on is no more valid. So we have to understand why traditional forms of welfare should be substituted by an innovative type of welfare. What we can call a move from social protection welfare to social investment welfare, or as I prefer to say, from a reactive kind of welfare to an anticipatory type of welfare. Because the 21st century, our century, requires such a different version of welfare. Why? That's the big issue. Because the major assumptions behind traditional forms of welfare are no more valid. The welfare of the past, the welfare that still today most of us has, depends from three major assumptions: stable families, one breadwinner, typically the husband or the male, and ex post interventions. Something happens, and then the state or the organizations tries to do something, often as income compensation. This is no more valid. Family, whatever they have become fluid. So people, kids born today, they may have a different family where they grow up. There are many female workers, so no more one single breadwinners. And more than anything else, we have to see problems in advance. We have to intervene before things happen, because ex post interventions are costly and poorly efficient, while anticipatory interventions are much more productive. So there are three major transformations. Some of them, they are already ongoing, but we have to make them more and more robust. We have to understand the fundamental, the major role played by female workers, and be aware that we have to avoid ghettos. I mean, North Europe has a very large amount of female workers, but most of them work just in two sectors. I mean, they are public officials or they work in schools. That's not enough. Female workers should be present in all the aspects of the market. Family services should address the needs of fluid families. We have to offer services keeping in mind that families are under transformation. We live in a phase of experimentation with the idea of family. And it may take 2 or 3 generations before having a stable kind of family again. And finally, anticipating crises instead of chasing them. See crises before they hit, because in that case, we can intervene in a much more effective way. And that's not so difficult after all, because we all know that troubles, difficulties, tend to concentrate in transition phases. When people are forced to address new type of problems they are not used to. For instance, when they move from studying to working, or when the first son or the first daughter arrives, or periods in which people change jobs or are unemployed, or when they change from work to retirement. These are but 4 easy exemplifications, but we know that these are periods, these are moments in which people run into troubles. And so we have to offer services helping people to better address these transitions. But what makes things difficult is that we are still working within the framework of the 20th century. And the framework of the 20th century is based on 3 clearly, and I would say deeply separated phases of life. The phase in which a person studies, the phase in which persons work, the phase in which persons retire. This is unsustainable. We cannot maintain this distinction for long. Think about, is it thinkable, is it acceptable that what a person studies study in his or her first 20 or 25 years is enough, is sufficient for the subsequent 40 years of job. It makes no sense. We live in such a world with so deep transformations that people have to go back and forth continuously at school, and to train and to develop new skills and to acquire new capacities, new competencies. Or the distinction between the phase in which people work and the phase in which people are retired. Retirement, once upon a time, was a marginal phase in the life of people. Now it lasts for decades. It is unsustainable. We have to consider different possibilities. For instance, working for ourselves and our family, and eventually working even 60 hours per week, from working for, say, our community, in which we may work 10 hours per week or 15 hours per week. So a much lower level of duty and commitment. But nevertheless, it's a possibility to continue to earn something, to have a little salary that may help may help maintaining a good quality of life, even if pensions are, for necessity, slower, minor and minor. So, but this is the third component. In order to be able to change for all our life, we have to help people to change. And the capacity to change is a skill that is born in preschool period. Then it must be fostered and developed and helped to grow and become stronger and stronger. But it is something that is born very early in the life of people. So trying to summarize what I very quickly said, I would propose a number of, I won't call them proposals, they are just issues worth developing. Because the real difference, that as I see it, I may be wrong, obviously, but the real difference that is growing is not so much the difference between young and old people, but the difference between people with skills and networks from one side and people without skills and networks from the other side at any age. So if this is true, and if this is becoming the real divide, we have to address this problem in order to face forthcoming challenges. So I would say kindergartens for all. That's a social priority. If we would like to have people as flexible as forthcoming changes requires, kindergarten for all, because the capacity to change is born at that age. Then develop programs for increasing the skills, and especially the skills of the less qualified. Because there are people that continue to acquire new skills and new competencies, but they are on the top of the scale. We need to work with those with less qualifications and to help them to become less rigid and much more flexible. Understand that each school dropout is a cost we can no longer accept. Each kid dropping out from school is a devastation. We should do whatever we can do in order to avoid that choice. Provide minimal parenting skills at school. I think that most young today know very little about what does it mean to have a kid, to have a son or a daughter. So some minimal skills should be provided at school, I think. Increase the number of female workers, that is simply obvious. Help women to stay at work by providing flexible services. That's, again, very obvious in a sense, and support the transition between different stages of life, because that's what an anticipatory welfare means. I stop here. There is something that eventually some of you may wish to read. I would like to suggest Working with the Future, which is an introduction to future studies, how to think systematically about the future in order to be able to address forthcoming challenges. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Poli. We have listened from Alejandro Macarron and from you, really. I think this is like the end of a period, and we have to start to go to another very different period, a new welfare. I would like to ask both of you, are we going to a new revolution, a very radical change of the way we live and the way we work?
Well, we need to reinvent. We need to reinvent the model because it's not sustainable. I don't know if we are going to, but we need to.
Yes, I agree entirely. We have to check the ways in which we have done things so far that may have been very good for the past, but is no more sustainable. We have to change. That's as simple as that. It's difficult to say the direction towards which we have to head. Okay, we have to discuss, we have to make experiments. I mean, we live in a historical phase in which a number of problems, for instance, demographic problems, the aging of population, I mean, they are unprecedented. We do not have any historical experience of the aging society or the geriatric society, as Professor Macarron said before. We simply do not know how to face that issue. It means we have to make experiments, because what may work in Spain may not work in Italy, for instance, or in Poland or in other countries. So we have to learn how to do things. And experimentation is the only possibility we have.
But maybe to Alejandro Macarron, this is a global phenomenon. This is not
it's a global phenomenon. There is another possibility, is that your hypothesis is that changes cannot go backwards, but sometimes in history there are changes who have backward change. No, for instance, communism, thing that do not change. So for instance, in Spain, more than half, and the same in Germany, of children are born from women that don't work out of home. Moms stay at home. Maybe not all their lifetime, no, but at the moment of having children. And they're a minority. I mean, most of you women in Spain, everywhere, now they have regular jobs or whatever, but they're much more fertile. So maybe we have to combine, as you say, old models and new models. But again, either we reinvent, what is not sustainable is what we have right now. This is not sustainable. I mean, no doubt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alejandro Macarron and Professor Roberto Poli. Then we go now to the next block of this conference. The second block is the block on family well-being, social and local policies. Then we have seen the demographic situation, the social challenges we have to face, this new period. We have to change many things. Then how is this affecting the well-being of families and specifically the social and local policies? To talk about this, we have with us Renata Carmasca from New York. You are in New York and United Nations. She works at the United Nations Department of Social and Economical Affairs, and she's in charge of the focal point on family. This is a very good place to have a very point of view, a global view of the situation in all the world. And now we are all together in this global policy working to get this, the Sustainable Development Goals. And there is one which is very related with this topic, the number 11th, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Then, Renata, how can we do this?
Yes, thank you very much for this nice introduction, and greetings from sunny New York. Yes, you just read the SDG 11. You know, under the SDG 11, we have several targets. You know, every sustainable development goal has a set of targets. So in this presentation, I would like to focus on the 3 targets that are relevant here for families and for the well-being of families. So, the first target is 11.1 is that by 2030 to ensure access for all to adequate, safe, and affordable housing and basic services and upgrade slums. Then the next, target 11.3 is to enhance inclusive and sustainable urbanization and capacity for participatory, integrated, and sustainable human settlements planning and management. Then we have the very important as well, target 11.7, which is to provide universal access to safe, inclusive, and accessible green and public spaces, in particular for women and children, older persons, and persons with disability. So these targets help towards achieving family well-being. So this is what I'll try to present today. So first of all, we have to think about what happens when families actually have no good housing, right? So if that happens, there's an impact on many facets of life, so such as employment, schooling, bringing up children, child development in general, nutrition, and health. Then in extreme situation, lack of housing results in homelessness, and we know that homelessness has been linked with many problems: worst impact for children, illness, injury, abuse, neglect, violence, separation from families, and impaired academic performance. So the importance of good housing to overall well-being is just undeniable. So stable, safe, decent housing in good neighborhood is key to human development and family well-being. So how does this relate to family well-being exactly, housing? So to establish that, we need to look at housing related factors contributing to family well-being. And just to mention that in this presentation, I rely heavily on the background paper that was prepared for the UN by Professor Bahira Trask. And the full paper is available on our website, and it also has a lot of recommendations. So basically, there are physical attributes and availability of housing, so good quality and safety housing, no homelessness. Then we have relationship of housing to occupant, so not overcrowded, affordable, having opportunities to create positive sense of self and empowerment. And the other area is the stable and secure housing with tenure options, so security in the dwelling. And also we have to look at neighborhood conditions, so good quality and safety, accessibility of housing to employment and education. That's also important. Then another aspect is also transportation and accessibility of different areas of in the town, and accessibility for persons who may have impairments, such as persons with disabilities. So also I would like to mention the importance of the target 11.7, so the green spaces. So we have like emerging research, or maybe more emphasis in in research, that really having green spaces and access to nature is a growing focus of early childhood specialists, who advocate that nature-based play facilitates early development and leads to positive youth outcomes. So studies found that there's a link between well-being and nature, and that this relationship facilitated connectedness to family, friends, and home. So this idea of nature, or being in nature, also creates more positive feelings and interest in sustainability, which is, of course, very, very important nowadays. And we also know that spending more time in natural surroundings contributes to positive mental health, which leads to healthier, close relationships and improves family well-being. Okay, so what is the actual situation? What's happening with these targets? And what are some organization trends, and do they advance family well-being? So we have a mixed picture. There are many challenges to the targets 11.1 and 11.3. So what we have what we have been observing is that we have the commodification of housing. So on a global scale, this is really an assault on the right to housing and forming a family. So what has happened is that the market takes over the building and cost of housing. Governments are no longer held responsible to the needs of families and communities. Instead of housing is increasingly dominated by international financial institutions. Decisions about housing, types, locations, and costs have been separated from human needs. And this is really in direct contradiction to the target I mentioned, which really calls for participatory, integrated, and sustainable human settlement planning. So there is really a global crisis around affordable housing. Some recent research indicates that over 90% of cities around the world do not provide adequate or affordable housing for their residents. We know that across the 32 major cities around the world, real home prices on average grew 24% in the last 5 years, while the average real income grew only by 8% over the same period. So we can see that it just housing becomes less and less affordable, and housing is viewed increasingly as a grow wealth, and this has changed the way in which housing operates. It means you have investors, you have private equity firms buying a housing. So there's this trend seeing housing as a investment or even speculation that sometimes is just it took us a really much away from the perception of housing as being really a right in the past. So, there are issues also with inadequate housing and public health. So, living in substandard housing creates health problems. It has ill effects on health of individuals, especially children, individuals with disabilities, older persons. There is an increase in respiratory and neurological disorders due to poor housing. An example from WHO indicates that 235 million individuals worldwide suffer from asthma related to, and this is related to where they live. So what is the solution? Well, we have to remind the governments and stakeholders involved that housing is fundamental to family life. Without a place that individuals call home, their other spheres of life are impacted. And a decent place for families to live becomes a platform for dignity, self-respect. So a decent home allows people to take advantage of opportunities in education, health, employment. So this is really an investment. It's like a base where development can happen. Stable housing is critical for positive child development. Housing provides a place for families to live in peace and security and dignity. We also have to remind governments in municipalities that individuals and families really need to be at the center of housing policies instead of the market domination that we experience. Governments have the ability to redesign laws and policies to highlight the centrality of rights of individuals. So community, national, and international levels, there has to be a pressure for that. So I think municipalities have a role to play to demand the family and focus of the cities. And housing is a fundamental right that needs to be understood in the framework of human dignity and security. In terms of long-term solutions, there are some areas that need special attention. So, for example, revitalization of distressed neighborhoods is very important. Promoting job growth in the cities, link job seekers to suburban employment opportunities. I think this is became even more important during COVID, where the kind of discrepancy between the essential workers and those who work from home has been highlighted really, and really focusing on affordable housing especially in low poverty areas. So so-called housing first principle, which really prevents homelessness. So policymakers must pursue the such policies that really favor individuals and families and put them at the center. So not put them at the center of city life, we can say, and really like the zoning and land use and funding mechanisms and construction costs need to be on policy agendas. And just to also mention something that's I noticed firsthand in my hometown of Warsaw is participatory budgeting, at least in the area where my family lives. So what is participatory budgeting? So it started in Porto Alegre, Brazil, and has been adopted in many municipalities. Starting there. So the idea is that people, can vote for urban projects, and businesses compete and create proposals appealing to families. Local businesses present, at least that's the way it works in Warsaw. They present projects on how, what they want to build. Let's say a playground that has disability access, or library with outdoor space, or some innovative other projects, and then people can vote for that. So the inhabitants of a certain area can vote for that. So I think it's quite an empowering mechanism to influence the people's participation. I think people feel that they have a stake in how the neighborhood develops. It's really in support of the SDG target I mentioned earlier, and I think it's a great way for people to realize what where the family needs are. So let's say if there are many families that have young children, I think the playgrounds would be a priority. For example, green spaces would be a priority, right? So that's just to offer a solution. So in conclusion, I would like to remind everyone that housing is a foundational to family formation and family life. Housing policies affect health, employment, poverty, mobility, and energy consumption. Housing is a human right and needs to be prioritized at every level and local policy agendas in order to accomplish the SDG 11. And this is really a foundational basis for the cities to thrive. And just to remind everyone that we have a lot of resources on the UN website. If you Google focal point on the family, or you will find a lot of resources, and we have excellent recommendations. We invite experts to write for us, to participate in expert group meetings, and you can find a lot of resources that may help if there are municipality representatives here, with ideas on how to make life of families more sustainable in the cities. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm very grateful that I was able to participate in this Congress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Renata. We have learned a lot about how to work on SDG 11. Housing is very important, and I think this is very connected with local policies. I would like to remind all the attendees that they can ask questions or send their opinions through the comments tool on Facebook or on YouTube. Then we go to the next speaker now. The next speaker came from Brussels. He works in Brussels in the European Committee of Regions, but he's from Hungary. Adam Karacsony. Adam Karacsony is the author of the draft opinion, I think, of how to tackling demographic change in Europe, because we are in this situation we were listening before, low birth rate, aging of population, depopulation of many territories of Europe, and this affects strongly also municipalities. Then last month, I think the draft opinion of the Committee of Regions written by Mr. Karacsony was approved. And then what is saying the European Committee of Regions? What are the recommendations, or what are the point of view about this situation? Adam.
Hello, good afternoon. Children are our most valuable national resource, said Herbert Hoover, who served as the 31st President of the United States. Dear President Maroncelli, dear Mr. Sanchez, dear friends of European families. Almost exactly a year ago, it was my pleasure to attend the first European Convention of Family-Friendly Municipalities conference in Brussels. This year, due to the pandemic, we do not have the chance to meet and discuss in person. A couple of months after President Hoover was elected in 1929, the stock market crashed and the Great Depression was beginning. And as the great economic crisis 91 years ago, the current COVID crisis is a huge shock to the European and global economy, and family planning is also profoundly affected by the pandemic. Therefore, as the rapporteur, I have highlighted in my Committee of the Region opinion that was adopted a month ago in Brussels that we need to launch immediate family-friendly support actions in order to avoid the overall decline in fertility rate. I agree with Professor Macaron, we need more children. Yeah, that's sure. And as I said last month when introduced the opinion at the plenary session in this Committee of the Regions, as there are low birth rates in the EU countries, we have to make efforts at the same time to increase birth rates with adequate policies, with incentives included, focusing families and work-life balance. Just to mention some numbers and statistics. In 1960, there were 3 young people, that means younger than 15, for every single elderly person aged 65 or over. 100 years later, in 2060, there will be 2 elderly for every young person, according to the latest predictions. This is a huge change within a century. 3 youngsters for 1 elderly turns to 1 youngster for 2 elderlies. And contrary to the growing global population, the pace of population growth within the EU has slowed down significantly. The year of 2015 has witnessed the first natural population decline in the EU 28, with more deaths than births. That means the European Union's population in that year could only increase due to the inward migration. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, the European Committee of the Regions, in its demographic opinion, considers that demographic change is one of the biggest challenges facing European regions, cities, countries, and rural population centers, and points out that some of the driving factors behind it are an aging population, low fertility and birth rates, and the worsening unequal distribution of population between big cities and the countryside. The COR underlines that due to the delay in the childbearing age of women, the desired childbirth postponed to a later age, resulting in the planned number of children, typically 2 or 3 children, not being met, and resulting in a difference between the actual and the desired number of children. This phenomenon is called fertility gap. And according to the Committee of the Regions, as long as there is a fertility gap in the European Union's member states, there is a primary role to reduce the fertility gap, and migration can only occur thereafter. So that means every effort must be made to encourage and incentivize childbearing. Dear colleagues, I would like to highlight 2 other points of the adopted document. The members of the Committee of the Regions consider that it's crucial to highlight a region's rich natural, historical, artistical, and cultural heritage in order to increase people's attachment to their villages and towns, thus supporting, preserving, maintaining, and protecting local, native, and small communities, linguistic, cultural subregions, with a view to strengthen the ability of rural areas to retain local population and revitalize rural areas. And the second thing I would like to mention here, that as there are European Day of different things. For instance, there is a European Day of Solidarity between Generations, European Day of Languages, there's European Day of Foundations and Donors, European Days of Parks. And therefore, the Committee of the Regions recalls that since 1994, the International Day of Families has been held in the United Nations each year on 15th May. Therefore, we, as the EU's local and regional representative, propose that the second Sunday of May could be the European Day of Families. Last year, I concluded my intervention with a quote from ELFAC's Lisbon Declaration, saying, "Family built from a long-lasting alliance between a man and a woman is the fundamental unit of society and holds the primary responsibility for the protection, upbringing, and development of children, Europe's future citizens." This time, let me express my personal remark. We, as the European countries and regions, are facing with an ideological dilemma on gender issues. I honestly believe that protecting European families and the traditional role of family and marriage as a value entity must be preserved in order to ensure the safety of our children and the future generations. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Adam. Then we go now to other Hungarian person, who is Kinga Jo. Kinga Jo she's the vice president of the group 3 of the European Economic and Social Committee. I think the group 3 is all the social area, the social activities also at the European Union. And I know that you have been working, Kinga, to study or to know well what has been the priorities to support families during COVID and post-COVID policies. Then maybe you can tell us something about these policies in Europe, the priorities in the post-COVID recovery focus on well-being of families.
Thank you very much, Raul, for this very kind introduction. I hope you can hear me well. This is absolutely true. We have been focusing on policies that can help families. And I would like to summarize a couple of recommendations that have come out of these discussions. In the context of the current crisis, and here I only partially refer to the health crisis caused by the COVID pandemic, and I also partly point to the persistent climate and environmental crisis, there is a growing interest in the concept of well-being economy. This concept might seem futuristic for some, but the management of the earlier crisis showed that without caring for the well-being of people, without adequate help in the social sector, the crisis cannot be overcome in a sustainable manner. I strongly believe that healthy, well-functioning families are the real immune system of our societies. Luckily, in most member states, immediate measures were introduced to help families cope with the effects of the lockdown related to the COVID-19 health crisis situation. Municipalities and civil society organizations were at the forefront of these actions, reaching out to those most in need. I am sure we will hear about some good examples later on today. So why do we insist on speaking about the well-being of people when we talk about demographic and societal challenges? Because there is a very strong and very tight correlation. the demographic dynamism comes down to confidence in the future. Otherwise, European women and men, in particular young people, will not have confidence in the future, and the resulting social and economic uncertainty will simply discourage them from having children. The present health crises are affecting the various demographic groups in our society very differently. Among them, young people, for whom the health risks appear to be lower, are being disproportionately harmed economically and socially by the restrictive measures imposed by the lockdowns. Age-specific trends in coronavirus deaths have been clear since the beginning of the pandemic. Statistics confirm the acute danger of the virus to the lives of older generations, and it is no doubt the priority should be given to older people when it comes to immediate and emergency intervention protecting their health. However, younger generations are much more exposed than the older population to the wider consequences, especially if we look at their employment prospects and the threat to their social and human capital. Young people are overrepresented, for example, in sectors hit hardest by the restrictions, such as retail, tourism, or hospitality. They are also more likely to work on temporary contracts or have atypical or non-typical work forms. Learning also moved online, as you well know, and restrictions on social gatherings are again in place. All this results in a great harm in the mental health of young people, as it is confirmed in a recent report of Eurofound, the European Agency for Living and Working Conditions. While young people traditionally score much better on mental well-being when surveyed than the rest of the population, during the past months, according to the Eurofound survey, more than half of young people were at risk of depression, a much larger share than the rest of the population. Local communities, the municipalities, and civil society organizations have therefore a vital role in reaching out also to young people as a target group and not to forget about them amidst the crisis. Referring to what Professor Poli said, we need to see problems before they hit. Another phenomenon that is, of course, not new, but rather persistent in the European Union is the poverty factor of having children. Among European families, large families have a 30% higher risk of living in poverty than two-parent, one or two children families. It is very probable that with the current trends, the situation will not get any better. Therefore, our committee believes, and it states in its opinion on demographic challenges, that having children must not be an obstacle to pursuing a professional career or a reason for impoverishment or the loss of purchasing power, especially for large families. It is important to maintain or implement stable and proactive family policy and human-centered labor market policies, including measures promoting a balance between family life and working life, also in this era of widespread telework and distance learning. Stable and diversified family policies adapted to the local and cultural environment have proven their value with regard to supporting family founding intentions and also raising fertility rates. To conclude, I'd like to recall that Ms. Suica, the commissioner responsible for demography, but also for democracy, was our guest at the beginning of our meeting. Please do not forget that the Commission is conducting debates related to the future of Europe and expect wide citizen participation. We are looking for input to shape the priorities for the Conference on the Future of Europe And we all need to be involved to make our voice heard that family friendliness and family well-being should be among these priorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kinga. We hope that the Vice President of the Commission, Dubravka Šuica, listen well this request, because I think it's very important. We have, with Mr. Caraccioni, we have one question received on comments on Facebook. Fabrizio Mancelli says, which will be the consequences of the adoption of the briefing? This opinion approved by the European Committee of Regions, which will be the consequences? Will be some effect on policies in Europe, local policies?
Yeah, we really do hope so, that there will be an effect. This document, after have been adopted last month, will be sent to the European institutes, such as European Commission, European Parliament, and hopefully they will find it useful, and they will use the statements that was adopted by local and regional representatives. That's the way we see how should we go ahead. And you know that the Committee of the Regions is an advisory board, such as the European Economic and Social Committee, that the best we can do is to share our views and ideas with the Parliament and the Commission, and we do really hope that there will be a conclusion and a step forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Caraccioni. Thank you, Mrs. Jo. And then we go to the next point of the program, which is we go to Portugal. Because you know that from the European Large Families Confederation and also in the Portuguese Association of Large Families, many time ago we realized that there is a lack of research on large families. And we wanted to know how were the policies supporting families with children in Europe during COVID. And this is the report that we are going to publish. Just today we are presenting this report with Rita Mendes and with Victoria Salvador. Rita Mendes is the president of the Portuguese Large Family Association. Welcome to the Congress, Rita.
Thank you very much, Raul, and thank you very much to invite us to participate in this LFAC initiative. We, as you said, we will present the report Measures to Support Families During COVID-19 in Europe. This report intends to review the policies implemented to support large families during COVID pandemic in Europe. And not only the large families, but families in general, since a few or even known policies are specifically addressed to large families. So this report is the result of a research made until June 2020 by Portuguese Large Families Association, as you said. The measures were collected in collaboration with all the Large Families Association members of the European Large Families Confederation. So the conclusions of the report will now be presented by Victoria Salvador. She's from the Studies Department of the Large Families Association in Portugal.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here, and I'm going to share my presentation, our presentation. So, to mitigate the effects of circumstances caused by COVID pandemic, governments created some measures addressed for families. And the main objective of this report, as Rita said, is to review those measures developed and implemented in Europe. With the collaboration of several associations of large families adhering to LFAC, we could identify and categorize the measures adopted in these 9 countries: Croatia, Cyprus, France, Hungary, Italy, Poland, Portugal, Romania, and Spain. As we can see in this graphic, all countries analyzed implemented measures for families. Italy, Portugal, and Spain were the countries that implemented more measures to support families. The most common measure adopted by the countries were wage compensation, parental leave, and measures related to loans. The measure implemented by all countries is related to wage compensation. This was an essential measure for all workers who have seen their jobs affected by the crisis. The wage compensation safeguards some income and protects some jobs to all workers whose companies were affected. In terms of conciliating work and family, parents in some countries, under some circumstances, could either work from home or opt for a parental leave. Working from home was the main measure recommended and adopted all over the world. It was an essential measure to stop the spread of the virus. Meanwhile, some families working from home was very challenging, but for some others, it was simply unsustainable when nurseries and schools closed. Two main factors have not considered. The first is the degree of dependency of dependents. Once children have different degrees of dependence, it's not adequate to expect the same work productivity from a parent with a 2-year-old child and a parent with a 10-year-old child. The second factor was family's dimension. In general, the more dependents you have, the more caregivers' dedication is needed, and it's not adequate to expect the same work productivity from a parent with one dependent than a parent with 3 or more dependents. In some countries, parents could also opt for parental leave. Once school had to close, parents could stop working to take care of their children. This measure was essential to enable parents to find at least one solution for their children, but this measure implies a drop in families' income, and it's not always possible. For instance, if you are able to work from home, this option was usually not available. So the problem is when a family is not capable of managing work duties with the care of numerous dependents. Families with more dependents and families with dependents with higher degree of dependency felt helpless during this time. We could see that government's measures are not sufficient to guarantee the adequate conditions for families to overcome the challenges imposed by COVID. For most governments, a family with one child was treated the same way exactly as a family with 3, 5, or more children. Under exceptional circumstances, it is essential to consider different contexts in which measures are applied. In general, measures could have been much fairer if they had contemplated the degree of dependency of children and the dimension of the family. We must recognize the exceptional contribution that large families make to society, and we should develop measures that guarantee large families sufficient conditions so that they can overcome the challenges and the difficulties caused by COVID pandemic with dignity. Thank you very much once again for your attention.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. This is the first report made by ELFAC. You know that we started with ELFAC papers we summarize some research on large families, also interesting information on large families, but this is the first report. Thank you very much for your work, Victoria. And now we go to the next block of this Congress. We are going to talk about the European network of family-friendly municipalities. We have seen the demographic situation of Europe, the social challenges we have to face, the family well-being during COVID and post-COVID recovery period, and how this affects social and local policies at the global level, from the United Nations, in the Europe level, from the European Committee of Regions, the point of view of the European Committee and Social Committee, the European Economic and Social Committee, and now this report about the policies improved by the governments. But this is a European network of family-friendly municipalities that we are going to talk about this. And to talk about this, we have with us Luciano Malfer. Luciano Malfer is like the soul of this European network, because we took the idea and the model of from the policies developed by the Provincia Autonoma di Trento in Italy, in the north of Italy, where you have done a very excellent work promoting this family-friendly environment from municipalities to all the territory. Then, Luciano, I don't know, why a European network of family-friendly municipalities for Europe?
Thank you, Raul. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to be here. You show my presentation. You can see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. It is really a pleasure to be here and to show our model of family-friendly policies and this special role of the family-friendly municipality in this big model. And have so speedily and quickly a presentation. Trentino is the region in which I live. It's an autonomous province in the mountains in northern Italy, with good performance in terms of employment, social cohesion, regional competitiveness. We live in a Dolomite region. And well-being policies for families have been implemented in Trentino in innovative ways compared to traditional approach. At the moment, for example, almost 1,000 organizations, 30% public and 70% private, have voluntarily joined the process, and the 90% of the Trentino population live in a family-friendly municipality. This is a process in 10 years we are here at the moment. Why the family-friendly municipality? 7 strategic issues. And I think we have to change the paradigm, no? Radical change. The first question is this, well-being and local development. The well-being policies for family are not the social policies. The family policies are economic policies that can improve the local development. I think this is very, very important and a radical change of the paradigm. And with the COVID, we have the proof that the family is really the pillar of our society. The second concept is the family mainstreaming. With this concept, the public authority gears potentially all the policies towards the well-being of families and the citizens. All policies can be family-friendly policies. In the case of the municipalities, the competence of the well-being policies is of the mayor of the council. The mayor involves all the municipalities ministers about these issues. All the policies can be redirected toward the well-being of families. This concept introduced the spider web model. This is our spider web model. In the center, we have the well-being of the families. These are the policies, the specific policies are already reoriented about the well-being. The municipalities is this concept, this strategy, but a lot of other policies can be reoriented towards the well-being of the families. Another key of our model is quality everywhere. No? In the world, different quality standards have been defined. For example, for the quality of the services, environmental quality standard, ethical quality standard, safety at work. And these are the private or public, semi-public organization that worked about this standard. And the question is this, another radical change of the paradigm. It is possible to think that a territory can be certified on family polity. All the territory, all the policies, all the actors of the territory
Hello, Luciano. I think we have some problems now with your image is frozen. I don't know why. Maybe we have these things on the internet. Maybe we can come back later with Luciano. And now we can go to present. We follow after when we have the solution of these technical problems with the connection with Italy, with Trento. Then we can go to know how is working now the 3 national networks of family-friendly municipalities that have been born, in Europe recently. One in Italy, the other one in Poland, and the third one in Portugal. They are different, and we would like to know a bit more about them. To talk about the Italian network of family-friendly municipalities, we have with us Chiara Leda. Chiara Leda, the Leda, with your parents and all, you are coordinating the task of the national network for Italian municipalities in all the country.
Yeah. So hello everyone. Thank you, Raul, and thanks for being here. Yeah, I bring to all of you the greetings of the coordinators of the Italian network of family-friendly municipalities, Mauro and Filomena Ledda, that are my parents, and they could not be present today. So let's speak about the Italian network. The Italian network of family-friendly municipalities was born in October 2017 and brings together the municipalities that at national level intend to promote policies for family well-being on the basis of the know-how developed by the autonomous province of Trento. Luciano was speaking about it, so yeah, it's a little bit connected, really strongly connected. It is promoted by the autonomous province of Trento, owner of the certification mark, which is in charge of assisting the municipalities concerned in the process of acquiring the mark, like the municipality of Alghero, my hometown in Sardinia, that is the first municipality to have obtained the trademark of a family-friendly municipality. It is also promoted by the National Association of Large Families with a view to horizontal subsidiarity with the aim of promoting the brand through the country. Until now, 74 Italian municipalities and 11 organizations have joined the network. And there are also 20 municipalities that have obtained the prestigious certification as a family-friendly municipality. Every day, new requests for membership arrive in the network that continues to grow really rapidly, and we are really happy about it. But what does it mean to join the network? It means becoming part of a cultural process of approaching, raising awareness, and reorienting the activities of municipal institutions to the needs of well-being and well-being of families. The network is a multiplier of resources and exchanges of information, experiences, and ideas. It allows you to know and experiment new policies, new organizations, and welfare models. We are proud to belong to the European network and happy to announce that in the 1st of December, a reciprocity agreement will be signed between the autonomous province of Trento and the European Large Family Confederation for automatic membership in the European network of family-friendly municipalities, Trentino and Family in Italy. A way to make the link between the Italian and the European network even stronger, confident that this large tree that grows will bear ever more abundant fruits, contributing to the well-being of a family across Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chiara. I have here the logo. This is the logo of the network family in Italia. So you have this logo I think, not for the municipalities. In fact, municipalities can use this logo, and also establishments like touristic places, touristic hotels, campings, apartments. Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Then with Luciano, because Luciano it's again with us. Then we can follow the presentation. The internet has these things.
Sorry.
And again.
Thank you. Sorry, I have connected problem, and you can see my presentation, I think. Okay. Share screen. Yes. Okay. Okay. You can see my presentation. Okay, we are here, quality everywhere in the country, in the world. We have different quality standards. These standards have been defined for the specific authority about the quality standard of services, environmental, ethical quality, safety at work, and so on. These are the organization that adopted and improved the standard. The question is this: it is possible to think that a territory can be certified, all the territory, on family quality. This is another radical change of the paradigm. In Trentino, the family agency have this role, and we have created a specific family brand. The brand is this: is a father, mother, 1 and 2 children, a logo, family, the country, the house.
You can see, sorry, below you on the bottom on left, you can see the logo of the European Network with euro figures.
Yeah. Exactly. And the family standard are, at the moment, the family brand is assigned by the agency only if the organization have adopted the optional and mandatory requirements. The standards are defined by a specific commission. In the group, there are representatives of families, tourismos, municipalities, companies, trade unions, and so on. And at the moment, we have 11 family standards: sport association, hotels, castle, museums, restaurants, bed and breakfast, country farms, family services, municipalities, companies, public transportation. In this model, the municipalities are really big and important. Our spiderweb model, the municipalities are these. In the center, we have the same question, the well-being of the families. And the family-friendly municipalities are one of the most important cases. At the moment, 90% of the Trentino population live in a family-friendly municipalities. The cooperation between the autonomous province of Trento and the larger family association allowed to improve the national network of family-friendly municipalities, Italian network of municipalities family-friendly. At the moment, we have 70 municipalities in Italian are already joined in the network, and we have certified 20 municipalities. And the cooperation with the ELFAC improved the standard, European standard. And now we are here. Okay, I am finished my presentation, and I ask to Raul to show our movie. Thank you very much.
Yes, we have a movie. You can introduce in a few seconds the movie we are going to watch.
The movie is a storytelling of our country. No, you can our spider web in which you look at the specific family-friendly policies reoriented. The movie show this picture about this question.
Perfect. Then we are going to go to watch now this 4 minutes movie from Trento. Wow, really, really, you see, we are watching this movie, and all of us, we are wanting to go to live to Trentino. This is really the objective, to create this family-friendly environment. This is the reason why in some countries like Italy, before we were talking with Chiara Leda about the Italian network of family-friendly municipalities. And now, I don't know if Irena, if you are here, yes. Hello, Irena. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome. From Poland. You are living in Warsaw, I think, and you are coordinating and you are promoting from your large family association this Polish network of family-friendly municipalities.
Yes, we are working on it. Thank you very much for the invitation to this Congress. My name is Irena Iśmanowicz, and I will tell some words about our experiences with municipalities and our cooperation with local governments. I try to share my presentation. Please, Raul, let it on the screen.
Yes, you have
Can you see it now?
On the screen.
All right, we have it. Okay, now I change only my application to Keynote to change slides. All right. First, let me make a brief introduction. 12 years ago, when our association was founded, there was no pro-family policy in Poland at all. We had only social policy. We knew that action would be needed both at the national and local level. After Raul's visit in Poland in 2008, one of our main postulates was to raise a large family card. Unfortunately, the government was not at all interested in this idea. So we went to local governments. Oh, sorry, I should change slide. So we went to local governments with this idea. Thanks to the hard work of many people and our local branches of our association, we managed to convince many local governments to this idea. And after a few years, we already had over 200 municipalities with the local large family cards. And then the government became interested in it and decided to create a nationwide large family card. So we can say that our road to the national large family card led through municipalities. Based on our experience and wanting to develop good relations with local governments, we have established a local government forum for large families. It was in 2012 when we have established this forum, and every year we meet twice with forum to exchange experiences and discuss some important topics related to family policy. This year, COVID ruined our plans, but usually we do it. From municipalities associated in the forum, we select the host of our annual nationwide large families convention. As some of you may remember, the 9th European Large Family Conference was held during our nationwide Large Families Convention, and the host was Szczecin, which some of you know as a member of our European network for family-friendly municipalities. Now, in our association, we are working on certification. certification process for family-friendly municipalities. We analyzed examples of certifications from Italy, from Portugal, and Austria, and now recently we have launched a pilot project in 3 municipalities: one large city, one small city, and one village. Together with ELFAC, we plan that the national certification will be a path to the European network of family-friendly municipalities. Our pilot certification work is still outgoing, but we already have our first observations. I suspect that you may have similar problems in your countries. Maybe you can tell something us after. Pilot workshops in municipalities showed us that often officials are not professionally prepared to work with families. It's because many of them have had experience only with social policy and helping in difficult life situations. And we think that maybe a more effective solution to work with families in municipalities would be to hire some associations or foundations for tasks directed to contact with families. I remember during my visit to Trento, I saw that there are many external associations involved in pro-family activities, and I think it's a huge benefit for all sides with this. Maybe this direction would be also good in Poland. We also have another discussion in association, and I would share this point with you. It's about some other certifications programs which are related to families. For example, UNICEF has its own child-friendly city certification program, and some of the guidelines are similar to ours. Although their program is focused only on the child, and ours will focus on the whole family. But some of our cities cooperate also with UNICEF, and they try to get this certificate. So we are interested if you have any national experience with possible cooperation with UNICEF or maybe some other certification program. Our aim is to simplify procedures for local governments and possible harmonization of our actions. And the last subject, finally, I would like to show you one more activity which I am personally involved in. We have in Poland a large family card mobile app which we have developed in our association. It locates discounts for families nationwide and shows details of offers. And now we want to include in this app local large family cards. We want to show them to our users. The goal is to promote family-friendly municipalities and also acquiring municipalities as our business partners. We think it will work with our certificate program in the future. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very much, Irene. It's a very well done presentation and very practical for
yes.
all the attendees from large family associations that they are thinking to create national network of family-friendly municipalities and also a large family card. You know, you have to work with the national card, now the local cards, and in a short future, we hope to have the European large family card. And we have to integrate all the benefits for families in only one source, only one tool to be used by families. Yes, very, very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then we go now to the third representative of a country who is working many years ago. I think it was the first one to start working with municipalities. We have learned at the European Large Families Confederation, we have learned a lot from them. Isabel Paula Santos, she's the coordinator of the Observatory of Municipality Family Responsibles. I think not family friendly, but family responsibles. I think it's the name of this observatory.
Yes. Hello, thank you for the invitation.
Something about this initiative, because I think we can learn a lot.
Yes, thank you. Are you listening to me? Do you hear me? Yes.
Yes, we are listening very well. Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you for the invitation. Hello from Lisbon. I'm going to try to share the presentation on screen. If I can't, I'll try.
Yes, you have to share a screen on the on the bottom of this platform.
Okay.
Now you have the option, I think, application window, and you can select the PowerPoint or.
Okay, let me. Oh no, I'm leaving. Okay, just forget. I'm not going to. Sorry. Okay, it's easier. I'll talk about the project very shortly. The Family Friendly Municipalities Observatory was created in 2008 by the Portuguese Large Families Association. And the main goals of this project are to monitor, award, and disseminate the municipalities' best practices in terms of family-friendly policies. This is in Portugal is the only observatory of this kind in terms of coverage, because it evaluates all the municipalities in Portugal. We are a small country. We have 308. It's very good, and it's in terms of the covered areas of the evaluation. As we'll see afterwards, we cover so many areas. In its structure, we developed this survey that was made in collaboration with this team of experts from different areas like psychology, sociology, familiar assistance, transportation, economy, and other areas, okay? About just to make a little background, why did we create the observatory? In Portugal, the fertility rate has been decreasing since the 80s. The last year that the fertility rate was over the replacement level to 2.1 was in 1981. It was a long time ago. The decreasing fertility rate changed the demographic pyramids from to an inverted pyramid. We have less people under 15 years old and a number of increasing people over 65. So for us, it was really a problem, as we've talked this afternoon. Other people talked about this problem. The fertility rate. It was really worrying the way the fertility rate was decreasing. In 2013, there was made this study about desired fertility in Portugal, and we realized that people in Portugal would love to have 2.31 children, but they were only having at that time 1.21. And we tried to understand what were the reasons why the fertility rate was decreasing so much, and why weren't couples having more children as they loved to have. So the main reasons we discovered was like the low quality of life, the uncertainty about the future, and the lack of public family policies. So we had started to work on this before, because this was something that we discovered before. But we understood that local governments are very important and they have a major role in the lives of families. They can influence families' lives and quality of life and the number of children the couples will have. So we try to work since 2008. We are working with the municipalities to improve the quality of life of families. So how the observatory works is that we have this platform. We have, like Raul showed moments ago, we have a website, a platform where we share all the information, all the best practices that we found in every municipality, because we believe that through sharing this information we can make a change, and we don't have to invent nothing new. We can just use some practices that work for other municipalities. That's a really important thing. And we do this annual survey that it's voluntary. Only the municipalities that wish to participate do it. And this survey has two different areas of coverage. For on one side, we evaluate the policies for the families which live in the municipality, for the families who live there. And on the other way, we evaluate the work and family reconciliation measures for the employees, and to understand if the municipalities are helping their employees balance their work and work life. On the first area, the policies for the families who live in the municipality, we evaluate 12 different areas, from the social support for maternity and paternity, support for families with special needs, education and training, transportation, housing, basic services, culture and sports and leisure. It's a whole range of subjects we evaluate. We have this on the survey you can access on our website. We have a grid in all these areas with so many questions that we can evaluate. On the other policies for the municipality employees, we evaluate 3 different areas. The family-friendly policies they already have, implemented. We evaluate the family-friendly facilitators, because you have to have the facilitators in order to implement the policies and to help them to develop. And in the end, we evaluate if the municipality has a family-friendly culture. And that's how it works, the evaluation system. As I told you, this is done every year. And since last year, we started a new survey. So in the area of the work-life balance for the employees, we created this new survey to be applied to the municipality employees. It's also voluntary. They don't have to answer it. The municipalities send this survey to their employees. If they want, they answer it. And this is the second year we are making it. Because it's important that we understand if the policies are implemented, the family-friendly policies for employees are implemented, and if the employees think that these policies are adequate and they are important for their lives. And it's been an experience, and maybe in the future we are thinking of having another survey for the families living there, and we are working on that. So after this evaluation, I cannot show you, but maybe Raul can put the website again if he can. We have this ceremony where all the municipalities come to take this award, which is a green flag, as you see in the picture, and they are very happy, very proud. They will put that flag upon the other municipal and national flags, and they are very proud of having that. Just to finish, always the evolution over the years. It's been for 12 years now. Last year we had almost 50% of the municipalities involved. They finished the survey. and of that, those more than 50%, which represent 76 municipalities, received an award and were awarded for that. So we are, to finish, we are just working to have all municipalities involved, and we are trying to get all of them and to spread this family-friendly culture all over Portugal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Irena, and thank you very much, Chiara. Italy, Poland, and Portugal, 3 countries with a national network promoting with different styles and different ways a national network of family-friendly municipalities. If someone of the attendees of the associations that are watching this Congress, attending this Congress, they want to start, they know that they have good advisors on you, in Isabel, Irena, and Chiara. Thank you very much. Thank you very much also to Luciano. Luciano, thank you, because you are like the engine, the motor, the force to start this kind of initiatives in Europe. Then thank you very much, and we count on you to continue working, promoting these family-friendly environments in the municipalities of Europe. Thank you very much. Then we go to the last guest today, talking about the European Network of Family-Friendly Municipalities. She's Getter Rang from Estonia, from the Estonian Large Family Association. You know that we are organizing this first Congress, European Congress of Family-Friendly Municipalities, that should be held in Brussels, but because of the pandemic, we are doing online. But we hope next year to organize, if it's possible, in person, this second convention of family-friendly municipalities to share good practices. Estonia was the candidate to organize the convention. Then, Getter, you can talk about how will be this second convention of European family-friendly municipalities.
Yes, thank you, Raul. Hello, dear friends, colleagues, and all the people who are taking part of this Congress. I'm glad to be here. As Raul already said, I will take you to the journey with me today and talk a little bit more about the second convention of family-friendly municipalities. I am Getter Rang. I'm working at the Estonian Association of Large Families as head of communications and marketing. And the initial plan was to organize the convention in Tallinn in 2019, as many of you already know. But due to the pandemics, we decided to postpone that. And we have come to the agreement to organize it next year, 2021, in March. We have not yet confirmed the date, but as soon as we do that, we of course will let everyone know. And the plan A is to do it virtually. Plan B is to do it in a hybrid way. So maybe the speakers could come to Estonia and we could broadcast the event from there. And always some space for plan C, which would be meeting up, but we have to take into consideration the restrictions and just live day by day, see how it goes. But we try to make it the safest choice and make the convention accessible to everyone. So if I can talk a little bit about the purpose. The purpose of the convention is actually to introduce the network of family-friendly municipalities, exchange good practices, support different municipalities in introducing family policies. And the convention is an information measure for a more family-friendly society, and the presentation of European family-friendly practices and multi-level advocacy activity. We have a draft of our agenda, which is not the final version, of course, and it will be still, we will still add some more and communicate what is going to happen exactly. But we plan to start today with the greetings from Regina and Raul. I hope they they confirm that. And also some words from the president of the Estonian Association of Large Families. We would also like to invite the Minister of Population or the Prime Minister of Estonia to have some opening words. Then we would move on to the introduction of the network of family-friendly municipalities, and also introduce a little more of the certification process, maybe as an example of Italy, Trento. Luciano Moffer would be a perfect person to do that. I hope he is available and he agrees to do that. Thank you. We count on you. Then one part will be also a research. I heard that ELFAC is preparing some papers, different research, as Portugal already did. So if some of the countries have come up with recent research on large families, it would be really interesting to include. So feel free to contact like Raul or me or whoever we would like to. And we would also like to include young people this year. So maybe some Estonian young people would come and talk about like how lucky they are to have many brothers and sisters. What are the advantages? What they have learned? To just like put an emphasis on like the positivity of having a large family. And of course, the most important part of the convention would be good practices from municipalities. So many municipalities will be sharing their lessons learned, their advices, and everything that is needed for others to hear. So that was the brief introduction. Thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to contact
Thank
me.
you very much, Getter. We hope to be in
I think, Raul,
Tallinn
you are muted.
all together. And if not, if it's not possible by the pandemic, in any case, we'll meet like here online all together. Then thank you very much, Getter. And then we have a few minutes to finish this Congress, to go to the end of the Congress. And I would like only to, talking about this European network of family-friendly municipalities, only to encourage municipalities to take part in a very nice initiative we started 2 months ago, which is named, it's called a virtual tour of family-friendly municipalities. We started with the city of Szczecin in Poland, and after that, we went to the city of Todi in Italy. And in this virtual tour, in only 1 hour, once a month, we talk with the mayor, we talk with the responsibles of the policy families, we listen to the testimonial of families, and we have also the association experts. And I think in 1 hour is like a study visit of a municipality to learn about the policies they are promoting, the best municipalities in Europe, family-friendly municipalities, to learn from them. Then I would like to welcome Regina Maroncelli, the president of ELFAC, to say goodbye to all the attendees, but also to talk about the declaration of family-friendly municipalities that we approved last year in the Convention of Family-Friendly Municipalities. And now I think we have some additions because the pandemic, the COVID pandemic.
Yes, thank you, Raul. Thank you, all the speakers. It has been really interesting and inspiring, and I think, and I hope you share with me these feelings. Yes, I just introduced you the final declaration we adopted at the end of the first convention in Brussels last year. We wanted to leave a word, something written, asking our governments are putting attention, showing attention to municipalities and to the network. Here, sorry. Okay, it's done. Here I am. Okay. Now this declaration, as you can see, was made in a time where COVID was not even an idea. Now we have to face it, and we have to take in account that even the way of being family friendly has changed in a way. So I would like to make some addition. You can see the addition that was made is underlined and in blocks, so it is made different. But I would like, and I would ask you, our participant, and who in the next days will be willing to take a look and write us your ideas and your suggestions for addiction or changings. So taking in account the demographic situation of Europe, as we have heard, and its dramatic implications, and quite a dim future, as we have heard, we would like to go to the next slide, which is not so easy, at least. In fact, it doesn't go. This is why being born national, maybe there is another one. I wish I was born 30 years later, so probably I would tell you all the right things. Now, I'm not wasting your time. Anyway, you will read it. It will be published in our website, and you will be able to give comments. We will add some suggestions that was taken, we were inspired during this talking. And we will address this call towards national governments and European Commission, because at the moment they are the ones that can help municipalities to become family friendly. This revolution has started, and it's coming from below, and it is bottom up. To be really strong, it will need to be incentivized by governments and the European Commission. In the meanwhile, I believe that focusing on the well-being of families, it is the best thing a municipality can do for its own future, for considering that municipalities now is challenging many issues. This process can really give a good answer to the problems of demography, of stagnation, of economic crisis. This can be an answer because it involves family, involves people, and this is family-centered. It is focused on the best and the most important resource we have. It has already been said, and not the first one, but our children, our young people are our biggest treasure and our main reason. So I think that focusing on them and on their well-being can be the key of our future. So thank you, Raul. Sorry for...
No, thank you very much. Very nice words to arrive to the end of this Congress. I like a lot this sentence you said about the revolution has begun. We have received this comment from Mauro Leda saying, Raul, as you can see, the family revolution has begun and he has a very special army. Then we have to work a lot to change, to go to this new period where families can live, can start a family, can live together, can stay together, can raise children well, to creating this family-friendly environment.
And let me add just one thing. In this battle, everybody wins. because it's a win-win situation for the municipalities and for families. So it's really very helpful for everybody.
And thank you very much for all the attendees, all the speakers. We are only 15, 17 minutes later of the agenda, but I think it's a good thinking. We are in Spain, I'm in Spain, and it's a good record. Then see you in the next convention, the second convention of European family-friendly municipalities in Estonia next March. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.